Welcome to Cardano Over Coffee with your host Brian from Hero Pool, Darlington from Lido Nation, Jenny from the Blockchain, Epoch Pool, TCT, Block Chalk, and the Always Chillin' Cook Time. The team is joined by Nick, creator of Saturn NFT.io. Nick was one of the first to deploy a smart contract on the Cardano blockchain many months ago. He's working on a new project with CIP-68 being used. Join us to learn more about what CIP-68 brings to Cardano NFTs and how it'll make them more dynamic. Also remember Rare Evo early bird tickets go on sale February 12th, and you can use coupon code COC10, that is COC10, for a 10% discount at rareevo.io. Grab your coffee and a notebook because this is going to be one you don't want to forget.
He's doing something very particular that I'm excited to learn about, and he's using CIP-68, which is a new CIP that is being implemented, and I'm excited to learn about that and everything that he got going on. So, Avatar Nick, welcome, and can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm a little bit late. There's a ton of meetings and a lot of stuff going on for CIP-68, so very happy to be here.
Yeah, can you introduce who you are, how you maybe got to Cardano before we get into like CIP-68 and what you're actually doing?
Yeah, so I'm Nick. I got into Cardano in 2021, kind of late, kind of like August, September, right before the smart contract launch, because I was looking for something that was not ridiculous in terms of fees, like Ethereum, but then was also decentralized. So actually, I was looking at the time kind of if I wanted to go into Solana or Cardano. And the more I looked at Solana, I was like, oh, it's fast, but there's these centralization problems. And then I watched a video on Charles where he explained the K-factor and things with the stake pool operators. I was like, okay, I could see that as being more of a decentralized move than Solana. So I went over to Cardano kind of like August, September, and then maybe a little earlier, actually. I'm not totally sure exactly on the timeline. And then smart contracts came out. And so basically, as a developer, I wanted to build on the blockchain, and then quickly realized how difficult it was actually to do that. So I wrote one of the first smart contracts on Cardano. I think it's like the third or fourth. It's kind of like a silly like auction project for a blob character. It's still actually live, but then basically I've just kind of been building ever since. I kind of took like a 5-month break, but then I came back and wanted to do other things like minting with Saturn or chat with Mercury, and now we're here.
What did you do before you got to crypto? You said obviously you're a developer. What experience? What languages do you know? That type of stuff.
Yeah, I did mainly two things. I was a startup engineer for some early stage startup type of thing, so a lot of kind of fast paced type of stuff. And then also I built video games. So I built a lot of video games for fun or for YouTube or something like that, like kind of like meme videos, like I made Pokemon Legends Arceus so Nintendo doesn't have to, kind of like gags like that.
Excellent. And what language do you like to develop in?
C# for sure. C# is the best language. I know.
Whoa!
A lot of people
agree, what just happened? Just kidding. Carry on. We'll forgive you.
I like it. No, he's good people. He gets it.
Yeah, so one of the problems
doesn't
I had
get shit. What is he doing? Never mind. Carry on.
he totally gets it. I agree.
So one of the problems I first had with JavaScript when building the first smart contract was because it lacks type safety. You've got TypeScript, of course, but it's not the greatest thing in the world to build large scale systems with that. It was just so hard to develop the off-chain code for the smart contract. I copy-pasted so much of the SpaceBuds repo, it was ridiculous. And even then, you still had to kind of figure out the very small intricacies. And basically, I've seen from like startups that would build all of their backend in Python. What would happen was, yeah, you'll do really, really well for like the first 2-ish years, but then the minute you have like 40 engineers, everything breaks down. It's impossible to build a large-scale backend to really scale a company when you lack type safety. So basically, type safety is super important, but the problem is things like C++ are a little bit too difficult to code in terms of like building out things fast and super scalable. So C# is perfect. And then also I built a lot of video games with C#. So C# is just kind of in my comfort zone. The problem is there were no libraries for Cardano written in C#. So I had to work with Kyle Johns, who does the Cardano Sharp library, to add all of the Plutus support.
How long been coding and doing all that? How long? What kind of experience?
I actually started super, super late, like at the end of my college career. So only like 6-ish years, but it's been like, it was kind of the idea like I was super far behind. And so I've just been coding 16 hours a day since leaving college pretty much.
Sorry, I was struggling with the mute button again. You would think after a year and a half that I would know how to like do this, but apparently I don't. So what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about Saturn NFT, or do you want to talk about CIP-68? How do you want to handle this?
I kind of want to talk about CIP-68 because I think that's the most important. Saturn's obviously just kind of the system that leverages it, but I think the CIP in itself is much more important for people to understand.
Well, what is it? Vito, you're probably going to need to lead this, or Epoch, because y'all are way smarter than me.
Yeah, so I'll tell y'all a story, and then CIP-68 will make a lot more sense. So basically, Cardano NFTs came out in March 2021, and so obviously you've got Alessandro, who created the berries, and then obviously he created the space buds and the CIP-25 standard. So all of this was occurring before Cardano had smart contracts. This is way before, a couple months. And one of the problems is that when you look at the Cardano transaction, how it's built and things like that, the metadata for the NFTs lives in something called auxiliary data. It's the third slot in computer notation in the transaction. And the problem with this is that smart contracts don't have access to this field. So you actually can't read the metadata of existing Cardano NFTs in smart contracts. You can't read it at all. It's completely opaque and obtuse, so you can't see, it's invisible. And this is obviously a major problem because, yes, right now, smart contracts are really hard to develop on Cardano, but if you look at what they're doing with interpreter laying or Helios or PluTS or Icon, which is kind of like where I'm really liking the look of right now, that's going to change within 3 months. I mean, within 3 months, you're looking at a lot of developers being able to build Cardano smart contracts, and you're going to see a lot of explosion in the ecosystem. And the problem is if every NFT in the entire ecosystem can't be read by smart contracts, you can't do anything sophisticated. So that's a major problem. But also, the previous metadata, since it can't be read, it also can't be updated according to decentralized logic. Because right now you've got the open and the closed policy. You don't really have anything in between, like, oh, I could perform this update if these certain conditions are met. You don't really get the ability to do that. And so this is where CIP-68 comes in. So basically how it works is you mint 2 assets with CIP-68. So you mint one NFT that goes into your wallet, and then you mint a second NFT that goes into a smart contract. And the NFT in the smart contract holds the data associated with the NFT in your wallet. So they're linked by their asset name.
Did we lose them?
Cool. Oh, no. Yeah, we're good. Cool. I just want to make sure that, because CIP-68, it is unbelievably powerful, but it is also very, very confusing. It's definitely not a simple and intuitive CIP. I think a lot of the abstractions that are built on top of it, like Pool PM displays them now and things like that. So it's going to look the same, but in terms of technicals, it is exponentially more complicated because it could do a lot more stuff. So now we have the situation where we've got one NFT in our wallet, and it only references an NFT in this smart contract. And then the smart contract can do whatever it wants to the NFT according to whatever the contract says. And so basically that allows people to perform these updates now where they can actually perform this logic to do these leveling systems, or they can customize their NFTs in certain ways. And a lot of people have reached out to us in terms of like, oh, could they get these NFTs to be customized? Or some people wanted a leveling system. So a lot of this is actually happening. And I think it's very, very crucial in the future that people support CIP-68 as quickly as possible, because it's going to take the ecosystem by storm in only a couple months. I know of at least 2 big projects that everybody here knows that's actively building CIP-68 stuff. So very, very important.
I would like to link with you on that because since you're on that end, and I like to keep track of that stuff. I would like to know who's using it. It's important to me. You know, I work closely with Alessandro, and I am very familiar with the CIP. I've been around since he was working on it. I mean, without even knowing it, because what happened is that when he created NFTs in Cardano, we didn't have Plutus yet out there. The Plutus Pioneer program wasn't even a thing yet. So he created that based on what Cardano was capable of doing at the time. But when we moved forward and he learned about Plutus and how Plutus contracts and how that extra layer was added, his mind was even more blown. So he started experimenting with that. Then there were some, kind of like things of that happened that kind of forced him for him to like actually find a real like, okay, we need to do this because the ecosystem exploded, right? And it's important. I think people don't realize that there's a lot of things that we're missing out. And when Ethereum people who make fun of us because we don't have smart contracts, that's kind of like what they were referring to. And we thought we just didn't realize it. It's because our NFTs don't work the same way. But with this, they can. And better.
Exactly. It is better too, because one of the interesting things about Ethereum NFTs is that they're all contracts. So a lot of the logic has to be kind of like pre-coded into the contract by a developer. But because Cardano smart contracts basically just hold the assets, there's some downsides with it because you have to lock it in a script for like marketplaces become very centralized. You look at like kind of the JPEG store thing with this. But what you could do is you could have much more arbitrary logic and you could future-proof logic a lot easier. So we've done this kind of with the Saturn smart contract. A lot of people have asked us for certain things, and we're like, "Yep, we thought of that," but because it works, because it doesn't apply to like one specific collection, and so that's kind of one of the ideas there. But one of the nice things about CIP-68, one of the nice things about CIP-68 as well, is that when you perform these updates, you can see the whole history on chain with the UTXOs. So not only do you get the update potential, but you could get this very clean timeline history of an NFT for free. So you could think of like one-of-one artists leveraging this to perform kind of these extra forms of art as well. There's a lot of things you can do with it. I can discuss kind of all of the different features.
Let Hero go, and then I want to talk about because everybody that talks about CIP-68, they talk about why it's so great. I think we should maybe touch a little bit on why it might not work for everything. Before everybody starts doing CIP-68. What's up, Hero?
So I'm not a smart man, right? But I see the importance of this in a lot of gaming NFTs, right? You had mentioned like leveling, to be able to level up an NFT through a game. Am I thinking in the right space?
Yes. So actually I kind of have like an allegory to this or kind of like a connection. So I think a couple of days ago we had the whole shitstorm with the alley cats, and then you had Josh from SeaWorld kind of criticize them on Twitter. And then there was this big space where they were talking about kind of a lot of the Cardano degens versus more of the corporate side of things. I think CIP-68 really kind of bridges the two with this. So gaming is like an obvious use case of it. So you've correctly identified that. That's why we built the leveling system on top of it, because it just works so nicely. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it for my own game that I'm going to launch. As a tech demo. It's going to be kind of an NFT project, but it's not. It's not going to be. The whole idea is not to be a super sophisticated community type project. It's really supposed to be kind of showcasing what CIP-68 can do. But I do think that this CIP has the potential to benefit both kind of the degen community and this corporate thing, because one of the examples is, let's say you're a degen, you go in, you mint the NFTs, you flip, all that stuff. It's good and fun. But now you kind of have this extra interesting layer. Let's say an NFT project, maybe they have a leveling system connected to their Discord, and you mint your NFT and you get a floor. You're like, oh damn, I got a floor, not great, but maybe you could flip it. But maybe you just happen to be high level in the Discord, or maybe you're good at the game that they have, or something like that. So you could actually level up maybe to level 3 and sell it for a little bit more. Maybe you get more than the mint price or something of that nature. You can kind of get a little bit more money back on that. And in the same tune, the NFT project can make more money over time because they can charge for the upgrades if they choose. They don't have to, but they can actually kind of get this more long-form revenue stream rather than just from royalties, which I think is super, super important, because if we want NFT projects to come over to Cardano, the projects have to be like, okay, how am I making money? And that's a big deal. And so now the project owner makes money, and the NFT degen can kind of make a little bit more money as well. But imagine someone pulls the rare NFT, right? They pull a really, really high rarity one, and now they have the choice. It's like, do they sell it right away and make, maybe a 10x on mint or something? Or now do they level it up to the highest level and they can get like 100 or something crazy? So there's a lot more games that can be played in terms of kind of this degen flipping mindset with this new CIP. But then also you look at the corporate side that wants to do more real fi, or kind of like the the real world use cases or things of that nature. Well, with these things like decentralized identities, you can now do this in a decentralized logic type of way by doing an upgrade. And so I think that this CIP kind of bridges the gap between what these two communities kind of want. And there are some limitations to it. I can get into that. But I do think this is going to be the future of Cardano NFTs, and I do think it's more powerful than ETH. That's why I'm super excited.
Can you
Thanks,
talk
man.
about what lives in the smart contract? So there's one in your wallet, and there's one in the thing that's in the smart contract, right? And they're linked by the asset name. Like, what else is happening in that smart contract? Does it have like spending permissions type thing, that who can spend logic that only the person who has stuff like that?
Yeah, so basically, someone could create any smart contract they want for this. We've created a relatively general one with a couple of defaults. So like the very, very simple default is that the project owner and the NFT owner need to sign, and then they could perform an upgrade. This is kind of the very, very simple, bare bones one, where most projects that don't want to deal with kind of sophisticated smart contract logic, they can kind of just do that, and it works super well. That's kind of the base layer. But then, in terms of Saturn specifically, if someone wants to write their own smart contract, we allow them. They can upload it to Saturn, and then basically we could perform the logic with it. The idea with Saturn is really to kind of be this kind of layer with smart contracts. One of the problems we have right now is that, like with minting platforms or minters in general, is they store the keys, and that's not, you don't always want that. So we're working on some solutions to handle that. But that's kind of what the smart contract does. It's very simple, but then people can create more complex things for much more fine-tuned logic that can be proved on chain.
Hey, I don't know what happened to your sound, but you just definitely
You went inside a
I
bathtub.
think he went into the smart contract. Okay,
Oh, that was perfect.
okay.
Yeah.
So just I'll preface this to saying, this is just good thing to explore, right? This is not me being weird or being light or whatever. But CIP-68, right? The fact that you have this proxy ownership, right, where you have something's in your wallet, but then the real thing is in a smart contract, right? Doesn't that put a lot of burden on people using the NFT to sort of make sure?
What do you mean the real thing is in the smart contract? I'm trying to follow you. I'm sorry.
So metadata, right? That's a lot of metadata is the thing that holds these values for NFTs. The rarity, the traits, that stuff lives on the token that's in a smart contract.
Well, you determine what's there and what's not, and that's up to you. Like, you can change, some of them can be like basically hard-coded in there.
Yeah, but my point here is there's two tokens. The things you're going to be upgrading lives in the smart contract, not in your wallet.
No, there's the one that controls, the controlling token is the one,
I'm talking
and
about
then you have yours.
positions. There's two tokens, one's in your wallet, which you control, and then one's in a smart contract. Yes, right. And the thing that's in the smart contract has metadata that's important. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
So as a user, right, you have to go to understand that those smart contracts that host all the NFT, you really have to know who the signers are, right? Like that people couldn't do sketchy shit with it. Like how
Oh, like the smart
Yes.
contract. Got it.
how
Got
do
it.
we
Okay.
protect against that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so signers it's not the best because you don't have a signer per smart contract. You have a signer per like NFT project. So basically, and I am going to open source the contract so people can kind of read it themselves and make sure everything's okay and everything like that. I just gotta be a little careful because I have some friends over maybe some hippo based companies that are big fans of mine. So I got to be a little careful. But I don't know if you guys saw the Saturn thing from before we announced CIP-68. But anyway, I'll drop that drama. So yeah, basically we're gonna open source the smart contract so people can see. And basically the whole idea is that you can actually see on the datum it's called what the who the key signers are or what the logic is. And we have some features that are on that what's it called? We have some features that are on that datum that basically control the logic. So basically, when we open source it, people can kind of read it, see for themselves,
So
and make sure everything's okay.
let me double down on that, right? Because this
Scattao.
opens up a serious like risk from a user standpoint, right? So is it fair to say that CIP-68, these NFTs, if an NFT project is using CIP-68, that contract should be open source as a default, so people know that they're not going to get rugged?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why we are going to open source the project, probably in a way where people can't just steal it and not give credit. But yeah, so that 100%. And that basically showcases, obviously the metadata and things like that.
So do you
And then
ever foresee, like, as far as since, well, because CIP-68 is a standard, right? Do you ever foresee like any sort of enforcement standard where wallets and marketplaces and stuff like have some safety that if your contract doesn't meet these certain safety criteria, they won't list it, basically? I mean,
I think there's probably something that marketplaces can agree on with that. Yeah, I definitely think
because
that
this
that's
is
something to
huge, right? I
explore.
mean, this is sort of the thing we see in Ethereum, where because everything has to go through a contract, the user may not know what they're signing or like what that contract actually does, right?
But isn't that what Scott's Stout supposed to be helping us with?
Well, we hope.
Right?
Well,
So
users. So I do want to make a distinction here with user signing and things like that. So in Cardano, since the transactions are deterministic, it is still safe in terms of user signing.
Oh
So whenever
not the user signing part, just the fact that you don't really know the full logic of that contract that holds your NFT that's worth 10K or whatever, right? You have to suddenly start caring about, okay, how was this contract written and stuff like that, and like what else can this contract do besides me interacting with it and my NFT that I have in it, right?
yeah, that's where open source is definitely gonna come into play.
Let's go to the hands, and I'll keep running my mouth. Go ahead, brave dogs.
Well, I'll put on some of the other limitations of CIP-68 as well,
Yes.
because there are definitely a couple. And the second one is that when you have to mint these two NFTs, and because you have to do that, the second NFT also needs the min UTXO ADA. So basically, CIP-68 NFTs are actually a little bit more expensive than CIP-25 NFTs because it's about 2, sometimes 3 ADA more expensive. Now, the nice thing is once you pay that, that min UTXO ADA, you don't really have to pay it again. It's basically just a one-time thing. And we've written the contract so you can get the ADA back if they ever lower the min UTXO, which I think they should. We got to petition IOG to do that with some protocol parameters. But that's kind of the other limitation with that.
Right, good thing to be thinking about as a company thinking about implementing CIP-68. Don't let your community bully you into doing it unless you have a really good business case. What?
well, but it saves you money in the end. It's not like you lose it because you have it. I mean, You
Yeah,
can
you could always
stake
get the
that.
mini
You can
back.
stake it while you
Yeah, I
have
just
it.
wouldn't
You
make it
can,
the default, right? Like you should have a good
and then when you
use case
update,
for using
like you can
CIP-68.
update stuff without having to do all this like extra drops that people do all the time. It's so you end up spending a lot of money minting later too, with like
Well,
leveling.
this is what
You can level an NFT without having to remint an NFT. You know.
exactly. And so this is kind of the idea. So like, let's say an NFT collection gets dropped, and you've got your initial mint price and things like that. Now all of a sudden, if your long term revenue, let's say you got 10 or 12 levels, and you charge for those, and you really want to build a community, and the status in the community is not only how rare the NFT is, but also how high your level is, then all of a sudden you've kind of built a more robust community, and you can make more revenue as the project. And I think that's really where a lot of this is going, because in order for these projects to do a lot of these fancy things, and not everybody's Bored Ape Yacht Club with like millions of dollars in the coffer, you need to have a recurring revenue stream, because the markets are always volatile. Who knows what's going to happen? And so having this kind of leveling system where your status and community is also built on the level, you can build this kind of extra dimension into your revenue stream. So for an example, like when I do the Moon Blob drop, it's going to be probably 1,000 NFTs. It's going to be like 1 ADA for a minute. It's going to make it super cheap. But then basically, if you can beat some bosses in the game, you can upgrade for 5 ADA or something like that, and kind of a long-term revenue stream. That's basically the idea to showcase how it all works.
Before we let nudes go, Brave down there, Brave Dogs had his hand up for quite a while, like 87 epochs.
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
What's up, Brave Dogs? Be brave.
Oh no.
Yeah. Hi there. So I was just wondering that in CIP-68 that there are two NFTs now with that. So one is the reference and one is the other user token. So when the size of the collection is small, it's fine, I guess. But when the collection is large, like 10,000 collections, and there is a min UTXO requirement, which is around 1.5 ADA. So that means that if you mint a collection of 10,000, you will be locking around 15,000 ADA. So how is the community taken on that? How's the take on the community for that matter?
Yeah, I think in terms of the min UTXO cost, it definitely is more than a standard NFT collection. But I think the functionality is so powerful that it's worth it. That's kind of like it is a small fee on that, and I think we can petition IOG to lower it because it's really used to prevent things like DDoS attacks or memory overloads, which I think with the current price and the current amount that you need to have in, I think is there's no real risk of that. But yeah, so it's a little bit extra cost, but the functionality you get is just so much more, and it can be read by smart contracts now as Icon and things come along line. I definitely think the cost is worth it.
So just quickly,
Can I just add a little to that too? Because I've answered this question a lot of times. I just want to add to that because it does sound like that, but in a way, I'm going to tell you different things that the community can benefit from this. It means if you're serious about your project and you're making 10,000 NFTs, it's because you know that you're going to sell 10,000 NFTs or you can afford to invest, which it helps with rugs, with people that invest absolutely nothing and then take a lot of thousands of ADA from one drop, and including millions, like we just saw with the new cats, right? So if that's the case, $15,000 upfront cost to start a business is nothing, and you can stake it and earn rewards while you're selling it. So if you don't sell out quickly, you're going to be staking that and earning rewards. So it's not that bad. And if you're serious about a project, if you're a project, then you're serious about your stuff, but you don't have the capital, you can start with smaller collections. And then if you make it big, well, guess what? Even like the whole thing about smaller collections, they get more value because you started early.
Wait, hang on.
There's a lot of different ways to look at it.
UTXO, Nick, can't you, with the CIP-68, does each NFT have to live in its own UTXO, or can those be batched up?
Each has to live in their own UTXO.
That's part
so
of
they're in their own UTXO.
That's part of the spec?
Yes, and
why is that?
Basically, Well, one of the things
Those are
Jenny
the
was
contract
mentioning.
lives.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to one thing Jenny was saying, where you don't need to actually pay this up front. So basically, let's say you want to mint for 40 ADA, you would just basically get 1.5 less ADA because that would go to the smart contract. So you don't have to pay like 15,000 ADA up front. That would not be great.
Right,
Or
right.
whatever you said. I wasn't even making the number. Somebody said 15
No,
grand.
no,
And I
just
said
the
15
point that
grand.
Yeah, I was. What was
the,
this
the
15?
project doesn't have to pay that, right? Each time you're minted, whatever you're selling it for, portion of it gets stuck in the contract instead of coming to your project wallet.
Oh, you mean the NFT itself becomes more
Hey,
expensive?
Jenny,
Yeah.
I love you
Got
too,
it.
and I know yins are extremely influent on and know this stuff. But can we get to the
Yeah,
hands?
can we?
Just
Let's
because
just clear up the
our
UTXO thing first, right? Because
Sorry,
that's
nerds
important,
and AI.
and then we'll go to the hands. The UTXO. Why does each NFT have to be in its own UTXO?
Yeah, so how it works is each UTXO has something called a datum on it. And you only get one datum per UTXO. And so you don't want to have a datum that is basically corresponding to two tokens in the UTXO
Right.
because you don't know which one is which. Or it's far more complicated. You have to do extra calculations in the smart contract, and you don't want to use those execution units just to link, especially if you've got like 10
That makes sense. What's
tokens.
up, Newt?
Hey, what's going on, Cardano Over Coffee? Just wanted to say what up, and hello to Nick. I love your work, man, and I think you're a great communicator for a lot of different complex topics. And shout out to all the work you've been doing. I know you came by Token Breakfast sometime last year, and you're always super active in your Discord. Anytime I've been in there talking about metadata or something like that, you're just like right there and answering all these things. So just wanted to give you a shout out for all the stuff that you're doing, man. And yeah, tons of interesting topics here today. I'm curious to know, kind of going back to that theme where you're talking about bringing the degen world and the corporate world into selling points. What are some of the interesting potentials you see for the use of CIP-68 with respect to royalties? Because I know that that's kind of a touchstone of the ecosystem, and I think there might be some interesting things that could happen. And I was curious to know your thoughts or perspectives in that regard.
Yeah, so royalties is a very interesting topic. So we had the thing late last year with the royalties and the JPEG store thing. But basically, one of the problems with royalties right now on Cardano is that you can't enforce them on chain. And there's no possibility to enforce them on chain as well. It's just completely impossible because the royalty tokens themselves are CIP-25, so you can't even read them in smart contracts. But now, and I just talked to Alessandro before I launched to make sure I did the royalty token correct. But now the royalty token is actually in the smart contract as well. So you can read all of the royalty data right in the contract.
Is there room for programmability there? Because I know on Ethereum, for example, they'll mint kind of two smart contracts. They'll do like one that sets the royalty parameters, and then they'll have a proxy contract that kind of decides where the royalties end up. And I'm curious to know, have you thought about programmability in that regard?
All right, I'll announce this then here because we launched
alert.
so much.
Alpha alert incoming.
We launched so much. So we launched so much stuff Monday that I just couldn't fit everything in one thread. It would just be too overwhelming. So I'll announce it Monday, but I'll give you guys some of the alpha here. So now with CIP-68, because you can read this data from the smart contract and some other things, you actually can do multiple royalty addresses with this as well. And not only that, you can do things like percentages, but also you could do min royalty, max royalty. There's a lot more programmability like you're talking about in the actual royalty standard. And so I was talking with Alessandro about this the other day. And yeah, you could do all of this now with multiple addresses and all these things. And I think some marketplaces are actually trying to implement this now that that we've announced this. So lots of stuff going on in Cardano revolving royalties. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks a lot for your work. Keep killing it.
Go ahead, Crypto College. You haven't spoken today yet.
Oh, Scholars was before me. It's fine.
Go ahead, Scholar.
You know what? Because he yielded, I'm going to yield to him. I'll wait after he says what he says. What a gentleman. What a gentleman. Go ahead, man.
Okay, I'm going to raise you a double. No, just kidding. So I have a limited understanding of the smart contract, so I apologize if this is like intuitive or well known. But with the ever continual upgrading with the software you want to implement, like, is there an inherent bogging down of the system with like a limited amount of NFTs? Like, will the contract just get too large trying to hold all these upgrades? Is there a limited floor, like you can only do like 30 on a collection of 10,000 before it starts slowing down or something?
No, I'm glad you asked that. That's actually a good question, because you look at some project wallets with all of this stuff in it, all these UTXOs, and you can't open it in Eternal because it's so slow. Thankfully, though, that's not actually the case for the smart contract, because what we do is it's a constant time lookup. So basically, when you perform an upgrade, it looks at the name of the NFT, and then it can match it using CIP-67 to the name with the UTXO in it. So it's a constant time lookup.
I just want everybody to know that I found a new friend, and his name is Nick. Go ahead, AI.
Not to be confused with Epoch, Nick.
I told you, Jenny, this was going to be a good space, right?
Yeah, that's fun.
I'm so excited about this because I rarely get excited about tech. You know, it's been stagnant. The space has been stagnant for so long. All we're seeing is, XYZ, Animal, PFP, and all this other stuff. Like, this is real, true functionality that's getting, launched, where, for me, I started to salivate about this idea because I'd love for people to play chess tournaments and have their playing record be on chain inside the NFT, right? For gaming, this opens up so many doors where you can basically cater to your community's needs in any way, shape, or form. And because I just found out apparently that you can have multiple royalty wallets, you can have basically the royalties get fed back into a community, not only yours, right? So you can sustain your project and you can sustain the community's reserves, like a treasury of sorts with multi-signatures, let's say, that'll be delegated to someone else. Again, this opens up so many possibilities that years ago when we were talking about scratching the surface of NFTs, this is what we were talking about, getting into the diving of this. Not only that, but with student records, right? Your whole curriculum, your averages, like you can see how this opens the doors to just
But AI though,
stuff.
you realize, right? All this is gonna do, or what potential this has to do is the animals that you talked about, the monkeys and the stuff. That now they're gonna be able to just take dumps on the chain, and that would be, like on chain. So that's what we're gonna have now. All these animals are gonna be pooping and doing all these like crazy random useless shit, basically. I guess that's cool.
You can actually burn these NFTs, which is great.
Yes,
and that's a plus as well.
Yeah, you could burn them as well, but also because you get all this extra functionality, it allows projects to do things that like I didn't even think of when I built this. So one of the examples is John Mers, who's one of the Book.io authors. Basically, he came to me. It was like, hey, I'm doing a graphic novel, and I want people to actually read the book. Can I make the book on chain with these upgrades? I was like, sure thing. He threw it together and then released it basically the next day. So there's things that nobody's even thought of that you could do kind of with this upgrade and leveling system now. And I think we've kind of only scratched the surface. So yeah, you'll have like a lot of projects doing some standard stuff, but you're going to have a lot of people thinking outside the box too.
What's up, Hero? I've got one last question.
So I got two questions. One, how is the staking of the ADA in these contracts work? Can you explain that to me a little bit? And then two, if anybody fucking sacrifices a goat on chain with CIP-68, I will hunt you down. I have a certain set of skills, and I will use them.
But that will make yours more valuable.
I'm a goat. I don't care about value.
We're just going to sacrifice Lido. He's the only goat apparently here that's worth sacrificing.
Okay, Nick, please answer the question so we can forget about killing Lido.
Yeah, so in terms of the staking of the Min UTXO, that's staking to the what's it called, the Cardano Sharp pool. So I don't know how many people know, but Kyle, who runs the Cardano Sharp pool, he's been in the community for a very long time, just kind of on the tech side, and he built this open source C# library. And I don't know how much you guys know about mobile game development, but basically every mobile game in the world runs on C#, something called Unity. So this library I thought was extremely critical to the future of Cardano. So I basically contributed to it and added all the Plutus support. And then I talked to Kyle. He runs his pool. The Cardano Foundation gave them his delegation and things like that. He works with some other gaming companies to add like a Cardano layer, basically. So we're staking the ADA to that pool because I think that it's an extremely important project to the future of Cardano. I do think gaming is going to be the next use case of NFTs. That's why I've kind of built around a more gamified system. But then also, yes, you can use it for the more RealFi type of things as well. So yeah, sticking to the Cardano Sharp pool.
Will projects be able to choose who they're going to stake to? Because a lot of them run their own stake pools, right? Or is it automatically set in that when you're staking those Min UTXOs, that's who it gets staked to?
Yeah, so the default is that contract address that stakes to the Cardano Sharp pool. But if a project has their own smart contract that they want to use, that could be staked to whatever they want.
Yeah, and before you go get any crazy ideas about how Wingrider does it, that's just a lot more work, right? That a person will have to do to add those kinds of controls, right? Than to just say, hey, we're gonna stake it to this pool or these pools or whatever. So for in the CIP-68, 667 world, right? Every time.
Well, hold on 1 second, Lido. I got one more question regarding this pool, right? Because as you said, there could possibly be billions of ADA locked up into these contracts eventually. Billions and billions
with a B.
Well, if Hashkey token was CIP-68, 67, then yeah, for sure.
What's the plan for this stake pool to do after his pool gets? This is important to me, so don't take this as like, what's that pool going to do after he gets full because of all the ADA stake to him?
Yeah, so I have thought about this, and there's a couple ideas that I think could work. So yes, you've identified a very interesting corner case problem. What happens if there's like millions of ADA in the smart contract? Because I mean, you can get ADA out if the Min UTXO lowers, but it's not the most realistic situation. So basically, let's say it has 64 million ADA or something ridiculous. What happens if it overflows a pool? And in that case, what you can do, and I think we just haven't done it yet, but we can do it, is that we actually make a second contract that's basically identical on another address, so it doesn't overflow the pools. And I think that's going to be a good middle ground for how there aren't enough NFTs on Cardano to do this yet, but as we look forward like 5-10 years, I think the best way is to actually create a second nearly identical contract, or use an identical contract and make a new address or something like that. It is possible. It's just a lot of work.
By the way, realistically, for this to actually be the case, you're gonna need more than a 10K collection, especially if the Min UTXO goes down, right?
Absolutely. I'm talking, you would need a lot, but
this is like one particular like made up case for this contract that you have.
It is important for 10 years down the line when there's millions of assets on Cardano.
In the future,
yeah, yes, but now you still need a massive collection, though, right? Just one NFT project.
What if there's 10,000 collections, Lido? Like in 5 years, there's gonna. Right now, we're at 6 million.
Yeah, but if you multiply and go to 100,000, that's still just 150,000 ADA. If it stays at 1.5 Min UTXO.
Go 10 years down the road, Lido.
Then you need to have a million collection, and then that's just.
I mean, I'm hoping that people can move their stake.
At 1 million collection, that's still just 1.5 million ADA.
That's fine.
Lido. Never mind. You're not in the NFT scene, so you don't understand that there's thousands.
My point here is, it's not every CIP-68 has to go to the same pool. It's just per project. So if you had a 10 million
project
asset,
one gaming project, just one. It could be billions and billions of users.
Wow.
Hold
Yeah,
on, but
yeah,
this is the
100%.
part that I'm trying to understand what the problem is. That the ADA is locked in a contract.
Just the main
What is
UTXO,
this?
right? Like if you have a UTXO, it needs to have ADA. So if it's in a contract, you can stake it somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, you can stake it.
Yeah.
And you can move it.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that for a long time. Because even if you had 20 million NFT assets in one contract, if you had that many users, I would think you would have different contracts, not just the one contract. But
Do you know how many
Yeah,
people
exactly.
play?
Over time, more contracts will exist.
right.
Do you know how many people play one game and how many skins that are involved in that one game, or NFTs may be involved in? If one game takes off, like
Yeah, so each
one,
skin would be a contract, right? It wouldn't be all in one contract. That would be very irresponsible.
That's what I'm saying. This is not part of the CIP. It's like this is something that you, I guess, by design, this is a project that you do. You
Right,
onboard people into utilizing that, and then it just comes that way. But you can actually change that into something else. You can have your own.
To move on from this, since we're running out of time, with these 668, 667, does every NFT interaction requires the contract to be present?
No. So basically, because of Plutus V2, the contract now actually lives on chain. I think Plutus V1 was one of the most brutal developer experiences I've ever had in my life. Plutus V2 is actually super nice. There's some really great stuff. Actually, this basically isn't possible without Plutus V2. This is why no one's really done it before, because the data from the NFT, before it was sitting on chain, but it was hashed, so you couldn't actually read it. Now with Plutus V2, it actually sits on chain and you can actually read it. And that's one of the things. And then in the same way, now the script is also on chain, so you don't have to do the thing where, like JPEG Store's old contract, basically you had to submit the contract every time you wanted to build the transaction, so they're really big and slow.
Just to sort of move it along, sorry, I will get to you in a second, and to sort of double click on the thing you're talking about. This is reference script, right? With CIP-33.
Yes.
So the reference,
CIP-33,
where
yeah.
does the reference live? On the NFT that's in your wallet, or
the reference always lives in the script address.
in the script address? So then when you're doing your transaction, you don't have to have the contract present. You can just have that.
Yep.
That makes
It's
sense.
there.
Yeah.
You just activate it. Yeah. So it lives. It's out there. Woo! You know what? A really good concept, user concept of this is when Alessandro put together that Matrix Berry. It was that drop, that whole process that he went through. It's just to showcase in a simple way all of these little capabilities. Like, he deployed it, he put it together before, he sent it to the chain, and then the smart contract was there and you were minting straight to it. He had nothing to do with the minting. Everything happened there. So you can just go through that, and it's an easy way to understand it. Because he made it as simple as he could, just precisely as a proof of concept.
What's up, AI?
Hey, so just a little background for you guys. I met Avatar Nick accidentally at a New York Cardano meetup, and then I had the pleasure of running into him again at the Cardano Summit. So if anyone's listening, I suggest you make it out to your local Cardano meetups, whether it's Jenny in North Carolina, or anyone else doing. I know News want to do something in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. Get out there. These Twitter spaces are great, but if you want to have a real conversation with someone and get to know them, nothing beats IRL. And yeah,
man, he's just talking our space down. Don't come here. No, I'm kidding. AI.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no,
Meeting in person.
Meeting you guys in person was magical to me.
Yeah, meeting in person, you get to know people better, right?
Wait, so is it time for Nick to show his shit now? Now that we've talked about CIP-68?
He should get a chance to show his shit. I mean, I don't got nowhere to be, so.
Yeah, right?
Cool.
I mean, come on.
All right, cool. So I'll show a little bit here. So basically, with CIP-68, we built Saturn NFT IO, which is it's basically like a little bit of an endmaker competitor, but we're really trying to go more towards the kind of the gaming side of it. I do think CIP-68 works for more of the corporate things as well, but I really do think gaming is kind of the next era of NFTs, especially when done correctly. I know a lot of gamers don't like them right now, but when branded and done correctly, I do think they provide innumerable value. So basically, that's Saturn NFT.io. If you guys want to create a collection or test it out, you can see kind of the new CIP-68 capabilities there. And then also what I'll be doing...
You help people migrate? Is that what you do too? Migrate if somebody wants to migrate a project?
Not yet. Maybe maybe I'll announce some stuff later. I don't know. We'll see. But not yet. So right now it's only for new projects. But we're working on some stuff behind the scenes, so don't worry about that.
Well, we're migrating the space buds soon, so that should be fun. We'll watch see how that goes.
Coming on soon. But basically, along with that, I'm going to be doing an NFT collection, kind of to showcase this tech with CIP-68 and everything like that. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to drop it. I'm thinking probably next Saturday, Sunday. So I have my ADA blobs, which is this one of the first smart contracts on Cardano was kind of this auction contract. It's called adablobs.io. If you want to bid for a blob, there's one that's auctioned off every week for 6 years. Basically, it just kind of keeps going. But I'm going to drop a second collection for kind of this tech demo. I think that's kind of going to be my role in the NFT collection scene, is basically whenever there's a new tech paradigm shift, I'm going to create a tech demo collection around it. And so what I'll do is I wrote a game a couple years ago, and how the collection will work is you mint it. It's going to be 1 ADA, probably very, very cheap. Then you have to pay the mint UTXO. But if you play the game, you can beat a boss, and if you could beat a boss, you can upgrade the NFT. And as your upgrade gets more and more, the bosses get harder and harder, basically. So if you could beat the last boss and get the last upgrade, maybe that NFT is pretty valuable because it shows you actually were able to beat the final boss. And then I might have some other fun giveaways that some people have came up to me about for this. So that's kind of a fun thing I'm going to do probably next weekish. I think that's probably going to be it. But yeah, Saturn is kind of the big thing, and obviously I've created Mercury Chat as well. But Saturn is kind of like the platform we're really trying to push CIP-68 with.
Can you tell me about the game? I'm a gamer. I need to know about the game.
Well, the game actually exists already. It's called Moonblob. It was part of a game jam I did like 3 years ago, but I'm repurposing it now for this Cardano tech demo. So it's on itch.io. If you guys look up Moonblob, it's kind of got the silly blob. You want to play it, train a little bit before the drop. that is available. It's a fun game. I enjoy it.
Awesome.
I just want to ask something about how do you go by teaching people once you get them into this? What do you teach them how to use it and manage it, or because there's like more to it, right? It's not just like set it and forget it. It's not static. Now you have interaction, right? So.
Yeah, so we've designed the system in Saturn to look basically identical to the CIP-25 NFT creation. So we've really worked super hard trying to make it as seamless as possible. So the mint looks exactly the same, except it mints the 2 tokens, of course. So I do think there'll be some questions around that, and I'll have like a little info card thing there. But other than that, it looks very similar. And then, of course, after the collection, you can create like an upgrade project for that, or use the APIs to do more of an arbitrary upgrade system.
Like you have like a whole platform where you can go in there and change parameters for things. Like if you want to upgrade something and change something in the metadata, for example.
Yes.
Where do they go? Do they have their own platform? Do they have to integrate something, or do they go to your platform to do that?
Yeah, you could do all of that on Saturn. So that's SaturnNFT.io. And it's wallet login, so you just have to connect your wallet, and then you create the account via the wallet. And if you mint an NFT, you can actually go into the NFT page after it's minted, and you could update the metadata, click update, and then it'll build that smart contract transaction that you can execute.
Got it. I gotta check it out.
Yes, pin some stuff up to the top too. Sorry, we meant to say that earlier, so people can follow along.
How do I pin something to the top? I haven't done it before in space.
So you go to the tweet, right? And then on the bottom right-hand corner of the tweet, there's this little square box with an arrow pointing up. Click on that, and at the very top it says share with Cardano Over Coffee. Just click on that.
Which marketplace?
That's a perfect clip.
That was.
Clip it, baby. Clip
it. Let me do that 1 second.
I used to have a sound bite that said that for me, so I didn't.
That was a good one. I'm saying. Take note, clip it. That was a good one. We can make a new one.
Are marketplaces supporting CIP-68 yet? Oh, they're still being chicken about it.
JPEG is not doing it. It's crazy. Every day it's like I'm like that account that says today PayPal decided not to list data. That's me. Today JPEG decided not to
start tweeting that
support CIP-68.
This should be a meme too. No, but there are market. I'm not gonna like announce anything, but there have been marketplaces that are not launched yet that have reached out that are going to support it. So I expect CIP-68 to be very supported very soon.
Are you talking to wallet teams too, or are people talking to wallet teams? That's the other group that needs to support this besides Spitspots.
Yeah, so Nami supports it. I've talked to Eternal, and I'm working on some of the others.
Let's go.
They say
people.
they will.
Let's go.
So,
Let's go.
But if you guys want to ping them or message them to start the process, that'd be very helpful too.
Oh yes, for sure. Let's blow this up. What's up, session from D-Mu Protocol?
That's the power of decentralization. It'll happen.
Hey, what's up? I appreciate your energy, Nick. First and foremost, I like that shit.
Thank you.
Did somebody say you're from New York? I'm also from New York. I have a question.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I have a question about the Saturn thing. I'm looking at it. Before I started on this path to I'm building a music rights protocol that'll auto-distribute music royalty payments to all rights holders of music every time their songs are monetized or licensed. But before that, I had this cool little NFT project. Is weed cannabis breeding thing where you buy strains of weed and you could breed your NFTs. Could Saturn NFT and the CIP-68 help power that? I stopped that because it was hard and frankly, music rights is a bigger problem to tackle. But could I use this CIP-68 and this Saturn NFT.io to power this breeding mechanic that I had in mind, where you would breed or combine two separate NFTs to make a hybrid or a new NFT that had the combination of the traits of the two parents?
Yes, that can be done. So you'll need a little bit extra development to actually indicate like what the traits are and things like that. But yes, that can all be done with Saturn. That's kind of one of the reasons why I want to do it. Kind of this fusion NFT, all that stuff. I actually think I might even build fusion NFTs like right into the protocol. I still have to decide if I wanted to do that, but it can be done with hitting the APIs and things like that. So yes. Yeah,
and don't forget, this is all being done in C#, of course. I kid.
Not JavaScript.
Ignore that.
Yes, not JavaScript.
Well, I think that's a show.
Not Haskell.
Thanks for listening to Cardano Over Coffee. We'd like to give a big shout out to our guest, Nick from SaturnNFT.io. If you want to learn more about what he's building or how you can leverage CIP-68, reach out to him today. We'll be in Denver, Colorado for Rare Evo event on August 24th through the 26th. Tickets go on sale February 12th at rareevo.io. You can use coupon code COC10 for 10% off the early bird tickets. Thanks for joining us, and remember to like, subscribe, and enter the land grab giveaway for one Clayverse plot by sharing one of our videos on Twitter. Make sure you tag Cardano Over Coffee to be entered. 1 entry per day.